So, how to be happy in life by finding your core values. Whenever we find ourselves in an unhappy place where we're unsatisfied or unfulfilled in life, or just downright miserable, the vast majority of the time it's because we're not living life in accordance with our values, or we believe that one or two of our key values are under threat. So it is absolutely crucial that you spend some time figuring out what your values are and what they mean to you. Hi, I'm Stephen Burns from Mind School, and I've been a practicing therapist, coach and trainer for around about 22 years. And in this video, I'd like to do part 2 of the series, How to Be Happy in Life by Finding Your Core Values. So if you haven't watched that first part yet, I'd recommend you check out that and then head back here. You'll see a link to it in the description. Also, if you haven't liked, subscribed and rung the bell yet, if you could do that, that would be absolutely amazing. It really does help. So just before we start, let's do a quick summary of what we talked about in part 1. And first of all, we talked about the fact that a value is something that is important to us. It's kind of like a guiding principle. And we give names to these values. We give labels like security, safety, freedom, growth, connection, belonging, power, creativity, you name it, the list goes on and on. And the thing about values is that they provide our upfront motivation. But from a happiness perspective, they supply us with a large, significant amount of our joy, satisfaction, and the fulfillment that we can extract from life. So what you want to do is you want to figure out what your values are by asking the question, what's important to me? You then want to take all of those values and then arrange them into a league table, into your top 3 or top 5, and those are what we call your core values. So what I'd like to talk about in this video is I'd like to talk about a crucial distinction that often people forget about when they're looking to figure out their values. And that is what the definition of those values are, what they mean to you. Because the thing is, as human beings, we are meaning-making machines. It's one of the key things that separates us from the animals. We don't just flow from one experience to the next. We interpret our experience, we label them, we attach meaning to them. And meaning is wholly subjective, and it can be significantly different from one person to the next. And this can be dramatically true when it comes to our values. For example, if we take a value like freedom, that happens to be in my top 5. My version of freedom is going to be different to yours. There might be some similarities, but there's a very good chance that it's going to be different, and it could potentially be very different. So for me, freedom is largely being able to choose the direction I head in life. I don't think that freedom is about being able to do everything I want to do all the time, every single day, simply because one of my other values is connection. So I believe that if I thought that freedom was all about just doing everything I wanted to do, then that would impinge on connection. Because when it comes to having a relationship, you can't just do what you want all the time. A relationship is about giving as well. It's about give and take. You have to let go of certain things. So for me, my definition of freedom, just so it doesn't conflict with my ability to relate and have high quality long-term relationships, there's a bit of leeway in it. It's about largely choosing the direction I head in life and largely choosing the things I want to engage in. If we take another one, something like excitement, my version of excitement could be going salsa dancing at the weekend, whereas yours could be heading all across Europe to do black run skiing, or doing, bungee jumping, or engaging in extreme sports, or traveling around about the world, quitting your job. It could be all kinds of things that are very different to my version of excitement. So same value, very different interpretation, very different definition. Now, by the way, as a bit of an aside, if you want to see some examples of values, then just check out any politician's speech. They litter their speeches full of values in an attempt to communicate, but most importantly, to influence. For example, if we take the phrase, "Make America Great Again," at the risk of starting an argument. Now, that is an attempt to appeal to a particular value set. But when you really get into it, what does that phrase actually mean? Well, it depends on who you ask. That's highly debatable and very controversial. If you ask a Republican, then they're going to give you a very different answer to a Democrat. And most likely when you compare these two answers, they're going to be totally different. And that is why you really need to clarify your own values. If you don't know what they mean, then you can't really apply them to your life. And when you do have a reasonable idea of what the definitions of them are, you can then use that definition like a laser beam to focus on the aspects of life that really mean something to you. So the key question is, how do you figure out what your values mean to you? Well, it is actually dead simple. And I would recommend two questions. You want to first of all look at your league table, so take your top 3 or your top 5 values and then do each of them individually. You want to look at the first value and ask yourself, what does that mean? So if it's freedom, you want to ask, what does freedom mean to me? You can also follow up with another question. You can say, what is my definition of freedom? Or what is my definition of significance? Or what does belonging mean to me? What is my definition? And by doing that, you're crafting more of a detailed version of your value, like I said, so you can use it like a laser beam to really focus on the aspects of life that are most meaningful and most important to you. So let's just do a very quick example. I'll just bring up this slide here. So these are two of my top values. Both of these fit into my top 5 on my league table. So first here we have growth. Now, for some people, growth might mean going to the gym and getting buff. That's not what it means for me. You might have guessed that already, even though I do like to work out. Growth means continually looking to discover new exciting things and to learn and develop in a positive way. That is my definition. So if I craft goals out of that definition and activities, I do things that fit with it, then they're going to give me a huge amount of pleasure, joy, satisfaction and fulfillment. Then if we take connection, I'm sure you have your own definition of connection, but for me it's all about sharing positive experiences with people. If I go even deeper, if I just clarify that a bit more, it's about sharing positive experiences with people that I'm in sync with. So if I do things, again, that fit with that definition, that description, then I'm going to get the biggest bang for my buck when it comes to my happiness and my fulfillment. So that's a general idea. It's great to figure out what your values are and arrange them in a league table, but it is really useful to dig a little bit deeper. So just to very quickly summarise, first of all, values are massively subjective. They can vary dramatically from one person to the next. So it is important to clarify what those values mean to you, so that you can then use that definition, that description, like a laser beam to focus in on the aspects of life that are most important, most meaningful to you. And in order to do this, you want to look at your list. You want to first of all go through the elicitation process, so to speak, and you then want to look at each value and ask, what does that mean to me? What is my definition? And you want to do that for each of your top 3 or your top 5 values. So hopefully you found that useful. Give it a go, and if you can post in the comments actually what your definitions, what your descriptions are for your own values. I'd be really interested to see the things that you come up with. Now there is actually a third part to this series that I'm going to do in another video if you want to keep an eye out for it on the channel, and that's where you take that value and what it means to you, and then you're looking to craft goals out of that value, or you're looking to explore what activities could I do that would really fit that description. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I want to go into it in a little bit more depth. So like I said, give this a go, have fun with it. It's a really useful exercise, and I'll see you later on.